It's been 7 years since deadly Hurricane Maria battered Puerto Rico, and as a federal audit reveals, a lot of work is still to be done. Many parts of the island still endure the after effects of the storm, with very little relief in sight.
The storm ravaged through the area, and its trail is still seen today in many infrastructures.
A report from the U.S. Government Accountability Office says Puerto Rico has spent less than 10% of the $23 billion federal funds available to help rebuild. More than $11 billion from the budget still requires approval from FEMA. For a small community on the island's coast called La Perla, the storm had no mercy. Carmen Lopez Rivera works for the community board and says residents had to turn to each other for help. Thank God we did not have losses with of any resident that has to do related to the hurricane, but we did suffer because many of the houses deteriorated. A substantial amount of permanent projects are still pending, and it's unclear why the territory's government hasn't taken steps to access the funds. Many agencies expect to turn in applications for rebuilding projects by 2030. Until then, Lopez says the community will have to rely on unity as their only beacon of hope. We are a blessed community because we are united. Reporting from San Juan, Puerto Rico for Valley View News, I'm Jasmine Cuza.
Israel has accepted a 6-week ceasefire proposal in Gaza following a second phase to create a solution. The ceasefire will allow more vulnerable hostages to be released in Gaza, as well as aid into the enclave. Talks to reach a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas are underway, as Hamas still hasn't accepted the proposal. The US, Qatar, Egypt, and Israel are expected to take part in the meeting. Vice President Kamala Harris is meeting with Israeli officials to discuss the matter.
Hamas claims it wants a ceasefire. Well, there is a deal on the table. And as we have said, Hamas needs to agree to that deal. Let's get a ceasefire. Let's reunite the hostages with their families.
The US and Jordan have dropped humanitarian aid into Gaza, though more is necessary. Israel has ordered the closure of Al Jazeera, in the country calling it a criminal act. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu shared on X that the decision was unanimous and immediate action was planned. Al Jazeera's broadcast equipment was taken and the network was removed from cable and satellite. The Israeli Ministry of Communications blocked Al Jazeera's websites. Netanyahu accused of Al Jazeera of inciting against Israel Defense Forces soldiers and harming Israel's security. Al Jazeera condemned the decision and said they had every right to access the information. The UN Secretary General and other human rights groups condemned the closure, citing the freedom of press. Immigration is proving to be a top concern among many Americans in this year's election. In a recent poll by Gallup, 28% of Americans list immigration as the most important problem. 54% of independents think illegal immigration is a critical threat. Recently, a bipartisan negotiation took place in response to the record-breaking number of crossings. Just in December, crossings at the southern border peaked at over 300,000. The bipartisan Senate bill would add more than 1,500 new customs and border protection personnel and includes a $20 billion agreement on border security. It would be the first time since 2019 that Americans consider immigration the country's biggest issue. At least 57 are dead and hundreds are missing following flash flooding in Brazil. The local government has declared a state of calamity in some areas where more than 67,000 people have been impacted. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva met with officials to oversee relief efforts. On Saturday, water levels in Guaíba Lake rose 5 meters. Authorities are carefully monitoring dams as they are not equipped to hold a lot of rain. The climate crisis, such as burning fossil fuels, is the cause for the supercharging weather, and it could get worse over time. That's the very latest from the Digital Media Center. I'm Jasmine Cuza. Back to you.